Hey everyone, Stank here, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the 5 exciting things in Battle for Azeroth. Of course, there's way more than 5 things to get excited about. We're going to lump them together into the 5 most exciting things that I think we could all really get behind and really get, pumped up for this new expansion. So, without further ado, let's get into it. At number 5, we have Allied Races. So, without a doubt, you knew that Allied Races was going to be on this list. I have it at number 5 because, you know, I've always mained a druid, and aside from whenever I was on the Alliance and I was a Night Elf, I've played a Tauren for the entire time I played a druid in this game. And granted, there haven't been a lot of new druid races introduced into the game over its lifetime, but we now have 3 new races that can be druids, 2 on the Horde with the High Mountain Taurens and these Andalari trolls, and then we have the Coltiran humans. Now, there's been a lot of hype and also a lot of contention over this issue of allied races. So when they first came out, it definitely looked like Horde had the upper hand. The Zandalari trolls, their druid forms just looked phenomenal. But now, we're starting to get a little more balance in there. The Coltiran humans, their druid forms are looking superb. And honestly, they're making me even consider the flop back to the Alliance, and also some other things that are going on with the shady Banshee Queen, but we'll get into that. And so I think that these allied races are going to be phenomenal for the game. On top of just the fact that we have new ways to customize our characters and to individualize ourselves from the pack, we also have the heritage armors that come into play. And these heritage armors are obviously, they're all beautiful pieces of armor sets, and they really hone in on the identity of each of these different races. Personally, and I'm not sure if this is something that may be coming down the pipeline, but if they could introduce heritage armor for all of the races, and maybe have some type of same system where if you leveled your character from 0 to max, then you can have access to those armors as well, that would actually be really cool. But that's aside from what we're talking about now. The last thing that I want to touch on with allied races are their racial abilities. Now, the thing that I love about these new races is that they do all have very unique racial abilities, and especially for me, I've been playing my a warrior as a High Mountain Tauren, and it's been a lot of fun because, of course, I want to get the heritage armor, and I think it'd be really cool to see like what different things you can do with the racial abilities. For example, on the warrior, they have Bull Rush, and so you could use Bull Rush as a way to obviously stun the enemies that are in front of you, but after you sprint away, you could also use a charge to re-engage into combat. And if you spec the right way, you can. I've been playing Fury, so when I charge back in, I can use Bloodthirst, and it helps me heal, and I have a much higher uptime in my combat, where I can take on easily 5 to 7 mobs in my AoE farming for leveling, and I never worry about my health because as soon as I start taking a little bit of damage, I have another charge where my Bloodthirst not only does a little bit of healing, but it does, I think it's additional 30% healing or something like that. And little things like that where you can integrate racial abilities into the gameplay of already established classes, I think is really neat. I know there were other people on YouTube, for example, I think it was Michael Hogman, put out a video about arcane mages and the void form, the void elves racial ability, where you can use displacement and then also use the void elf racial as just like a second displacement. And so there's just really neat combinations that you can make, and I think that's something really cool to see how that comes into play, not only for the casual player, but then also on the high end arena level. Next topic is going to be number 4, the double lore effect. Now, the double lore effect is something that I think is really cool. And what I mean by that is we are getting lore and content and character development all over the place from what I've seen so far. Especially being a horde player, like I said, the Banshee Queen is not someone who I'm particularly fond of right now because I don't know if I necessarily agree with the actions that we're taking as the horde, but she's still our our war chief. We're gonna follow through and do what we have to do. But there's this massive character development, and we're really going beyond what's established in lore, right? So a lot of the villains that we saw in through Warcraft to Warcraft 3, we've met all of our matches and really discussed all of that and played through all of that in World of Warcraft. And the culmination of that being us, defeating Argus and, Sargeras being trapped in the Pantheon with the Titans. With all that being done, now we're kind of going into uncharted territory. This is now World of Warcraft content, not building upon Warcraft or Warcraft 3 content. And so, with the two different zones, the two different progressions of storylines, even whenever we go into one of the dungeons, I think it's Siege of Borealis is the name of it, that one, and there's going to be a raid, we're going to be seeing two different instant settings from different perspectives. The Horde will have different bosses in Siege of Borealis than the Alliance. So with those two different perspectives, I think it's going to really develop the plot a lot more. It actually, I think, will even aid to the identity of the Horde and Alliance because, just like whenever we saw the Broken Shores cinematic and, the Horde got to see the desperation of Sylvanas' horn cry and the saving by the Valkyr, that's something that they knew that the Horde players knew. All right, we got to save ourselves here as much as we're trying to make this effort. But all the Alliance saw from their perspective was the Horde pulling back and giving up on the effort. And I think any player can say that it was absolutely horrible that Varian Rin died the way that he did. But the point is that having these dual perspectives will promote a much bigger depth in the content, in the development of characters. I think this is going to be a great expansion for anyone who is interested in lore and the development of the different aspects of the game in that way. Number 3, PvP changes. So of course this is for all the PvPers, and I have been on and off with PvP throughout my time in the game. Always something that I enjoy though. They're doing a lot this expansion, I think. They're making some changes. They definitely are first off making the change of honor talents. If you haven't heard, so now with your honor level, right, you have your certain honor level, you get up to level 50, you prestige, and you can go through that system during Legion. Now, all the honor that you've gained over the span of all of your characters will be culminated into one, honor level system that you have as an account. And now instead of having to go through the whole system from 1 to 50 your first time to get your honor talents, now you're going to have honor talents which you gain access to as you level up. By the time you're 110, you have access to all of your honor talents, and it works kind of almost like glyphing. And so your first row will be your honors, your gladiator's medallion, or if you choose to go into relentless or the other one, so that's like your mitigation for CC, and then you have 3 other slots. And so instead of what we had in the past, where we had to choose through a talent system, with tiers, we had to choose one from each row. Now we have the whole entire pool open to us, and we can mix and match 3 out of all of the ones that are in the pool. I think right now, I don't have the exact number offhand, but I think it's around like 12 to 15 or so that you may have access to. It may be a little less than that. But you have access to a fair amount of different talents. Now, not all of them are going to be super beneficial, but there is the possibility to introduce different types of gameplay. And then what comes along with that is now the new war mode, which is on the same screen for the same UI as the honor talents. Now, the war mode is something that you have to toggle in your major city. For Horde, it's going to be Orgrimmar, and for Alliance, it's going to be Stormwind. And once you toggle your war mode, means that whenever you go out into the world, you'll be able to see and use all of your honor talents, especially the ones that are activated, but the passive ones also will be active, and so you can benefit from all of your honor talents while you're out in the world. But what this does, it phases you, it shards you into a different zone where you'll be with other people that have war mode activated. And whenever you have that war mode activated, of course, you're susceptible to ganking. I actually was just recently playing on the PTR and got ganked once or twice by a rogue. But it's something fun that really is inviting a lot of people in this game. They want to bring world PvP back, and I think this is a great step towards that. Um, Along with being able to use your PvP talents out in the world, you also there's going to be an experience bonus and I think a power boost as well tied to that. So it's definitely worth it, especially if you're leveling. And we're going to be leveling on different zones as different factions. So there's going to be very little interaction with the other zone, other faction while you're leveling. And if you're like me, you probably have a friend or two or guildies that you're going to be leveling with. So that also will help the process where you most likely won't have a problem leveling up the first couple days with war mode activated. And then at max level, I think it'll be a lot of fun because there'll be a lot of just world PvP, world combat that will be a lot of fun. And I'm sure there's a lot of content and that will be developed from that. On top of those, two other things in PvP that I'm looking forward to are going to be the Duelers Guild and the Epic Battlegrounds. These are two things that I'm not sure how competitive they're going to get, but they're definitely going to be fun things for PvPers to get involved with. I know a lot of people have been upset that dueling has really kind of fallen to the wayside. They're duels that would go on for hours and hours, in front of Orgrimmar and in front of Stormwind and in front of Ironforge. There was a lot of cool PvP community building that happened in those settings where you would take turns PvPing and dueling with different classes and you could there were some times where I went and I did that and I would duel against the same person 3 or 4 times in a row, and maybe the first time or 2 times in a row like I lost, but then the third time I'd come back and I'd win. And so now I have this drive, like I'm starting to learn not only the opponent, like the actual player, but I'm learning the class that I'm playing against as well. And these are just things that they help build a player up, and if not, it also helps in the community building. Like I said, you get to learn the names of the players that you're dueling against, and these are all things that I think are really great for promoting PvP gameplay and making it more fun and possibly even more rewardable through the different means. The next is number 2, the new zones and aesthetics. So this is kind of maybe a little broad, but there's a lot of beautiful artwork that's been produced for this game. I'm not on the beta, but I have seen lots of gameplay and I've seen the different things that we will encounter in these new zones, and it's just all really great artwork. It's something that we can really all get excited about. Just walking into a new zone and getting that new feel. There's going to be, I'm sure, new audio and it's going to be a great experience. Just experiencing those new habitats to level and gear and play through. Along with that, I think we're going to have awesome major cities, like the awesome capitals in the new zones. So we have Zoldazar for the Horde, and we have Borealis for the Alliance. Now, the Alliance capital, last I heard, it wasn't fully flushed out, but it's definitely getting much more polished these days than it was at the beginning. Zoldazar is pristine, troll, golden empire. These are both from the content that I've watched and been exposed to. These are massive, spanning environments. They, from some people I've talked to, they're on par with what Suramar looks like. Now, Suramar, of course, wasn't a capital that we could interact with in a way such as we don't have vendors or auction houses or things like that there. But that degree of expansion, as far as a major city goes, that's what I've been told. These two major cities are like. They're very expansive, um, jaw-dropping environments. So that'll be really awesome to kind of play through and just find all the nooks and crannies. They always have some Easter egg type things in big environments like that, and it's going to be really neat experiencing all that, of course, for the first time. But then also, I'm sure it'll take a while to really get a handle on the depth that really comes with a city that big. The next part of the aesthetics that's really cool is the gear. We're getting really awesome themed gear, and actually, this is again another point where I'm having a little Alliance envy. Is that pirate, seafaring gear that you guys are going to get is going to be really, really cool. And don't get me wrong, the troll gear is going to be fantastic as well. The big theme here is themed gear. We won't have our tier sets anymore, so we won't have specific sets for each of the classes, and that may be a little frustrating. When there may be a little sting, that we're not going to have those tiers. But I think it's going to be really cool to have themed gear associated with wherever we are, whatever the raid is or the dungeon. It's going to be really awesome to kind of see that development and really embrace the environment. The other thing about it that I kind of was thinking about as well is that transmogging is so popular. So many people have either like sets that they transmog from past expansions, or they create their own transmog sets that look pretty cool. But a lot of people are doing that, and not a lot of people really take on the actual appearance of their current set or their current gear, or even the current expansion. So I think it's going to be very, very cool to hopefully see more people embracing the gear of the current expansion, especially if, let's say, when you go into raids right now, if you go into Antorus, you're going to get gear that, like for me, I'd get gear that's for a rogue, for a monk, for a druid, for a demon hunter. Like all these different gear sets drop. So if you get a piece of leather, a leather belt, and you're a druid, that belt could be for a monk, and the different tiers looks very different. So it may look completely whack with whatever I'm wearing, but I don't want that. I want to be able to build up my whole set, and not have to really like pinpoint exactly where to get it and things like that. I think it'll be a lot easier for people to build full gear sets. The last thing that I want to talk about with the zones and aesthetics is going to be the different feels, like the different feelings and emotions that are brought to the table from different types of areas. And what I mean by that is, so we haven't had a troll themed area in so long. The last troll themed area that I can think of came in Mop, and during the Throne of Thunder, in the Isle of Thunder. This area was super dark. It had all the Zandalari, themes. Of course, there were Zandalari on the island, and so the last time we really had this kind of really deep troll exposure was then. And I think it's going to be really awesome to go into these new zones. Nazmir, I hear, is pretty much going to be very swampy, infested with dinosaurs. It's going to be a really awesome place to level and experience all that. On the other hand, we're going to have some really awesome stuff to look at on the Alliance side as well. We're going to have that whole naval theme going on. I don't know what direction it's really going to be going. It seems more of it's like a prestigious naval, as far as like a 17th century, like, English and Spanish conquerors, massive ships and stuff like that. It seems more along that lines as far as seafaring goes, as opposed to actual piracy and like like the Booty Bay Pirates. But definitely having that naval theme is really cool. There were a lot of people over the past couple of years that have been wanting like a South Seas expansion where we had something like that. I think this is going to be really cool and appeal to those different aesthetics. And yeah, we haven't had a naval theme like that. I mean, there's been little tricklings in there in different aspects, But I mean, what the last time we had something like that was the WAD naval ship mission table, and let's not even talk about that in depth. So I think it's going to be really awesome to see all of these different things come together. It's just going to be a really beautiful expansion, in my opinion. Lastly, number one, content. And now I know this seems really broad as a number one, but I think it is something that we should all be really excited about. In Legion, we had such a great expansion as far as content was. There was always something to do. There was a really great pacing of how things came out, and I think Blizzard is really in tune with that, how they feel about it, as well as how the players feel about it. The only thing I think they mentioned is that they thought Karazhan came out a little too soon at the beginning of the expansion. Maybe true, but honestly, even with how it ended up unfolding, I think it was really great. There's a lot of stuff for us to really get our teeth into at the very beginning of the expansion. Things that I didn't even mention, which are just things that, I don't know how excited I am about them just because I haven't played them myself. Haven't seen too much about them, and maybe that's a good thing. But Ion Expeditions, I think, will be a lot of fun. They sure sound like they're going to be a great way to get exposed to different gameplay with the advanced AI. We're going to have war fronts, which should be pretty cool. It's going to allow, exposure to old world content in a way, as well as world questing in the old world. And then, of course, the world event, Warfront events, where we're going to be actually, trying to take back the keep, at least at first, as Stromgarde Keep. So those are two major things that, of course, I haven't mentioned, but are going to be things that are just content related that I'm really excited for. Um, and of course, just discovering the game. There's always that rush, that excitement that comes at the beginning of an expansion, and you get to experience all these new things. And even no matter how much of a boss or top kingpin PvPer or mythic raider you were, there's definitely things that if you didn't play on beta or alpha, you're going to be exposed to different things that you have never experienced before, or that you're not expecting. These little things are things that I think every WoW player, whether you came in at vanilla, came in at Lich King, even if you came during MOP or something, like these are things about the game that I think really help solidify people's love and passion for it. Is that you have moments that are really defining, not so much in that they make your character better or their major lore plot points, but they're events that you remember. And that event is very minuscule. It doesn't mean anything to how that expansion developed for me. But I remembered that fact being like, whoa, this is something new. I didn't even expect this to happen. I think we have a lot of that in store for us this expansion. I think the content is going to be phenomenal. I think we have uh, a great game coming to us in less than 2 months. So get real excited, boys and ladies. We have five great things on this list, and I'm sure there's many more that I did not name. Get hyped for this expansion. I'm going to try and pump out some more content over the next couple weeks before it comes out. I'm going to be playing the PTR and hopefully getting out at least some Druid guides, if not more. And if you liked this video, if you liked what I had in this list, give me a like. If you didn't like it, be sure to downvote it. That's okay. I'll get by. I don't need that. And of course, subscribe because I'm going to be putting out some more videos. I got the time right now, and I think we have a lot of things to cover. So hope you enjoyed. Get out there, wreck some noobs. Later.